about your wide receiver who needs to prove that they can
man.
stay in your fantasy
Oh,
lineup,
man.
maybe even at this point, your fantasy roster with this player. Jacob, who's your guy?
Yeah, I don't know if I've had an up and down relationship with a player more than this guy. And we've seen it over the years. I'm supporting him every year, and that is a Gabe Davis of the Buffalo Bills. Now, I want to preface this by saying this is after this year, I'm out. Like everybody else is already out. I'm giving him one more chance. He has one more chance. And look, we're just kind of like, this is like, we're not being serious, right? Like he's an amazing athlete, he's an amazing player, very talented. Like I could never do the things that he does. But just saying, I've never seen a player have so much hype and disappoint so much. Like everyone expected like him to blow the roof off the league, like be this amazing bust boom player for Josh Allen, and like nothing. So Gabe Davis, and look, I don't think that Dalton Kincaid is necessarily going to like, take all of Davis's targets. Like they're not even going to they're not going to play the same, run the same routes. Gabe Davis is a down the field, speed down the field player, right? Dalton Kincaid is a tight end, but they're saying he's like a big slot receiver, right? So they're not going to be directly competing. But if you think about this, they still have Dawson Knox. So are they going to run Dawson Knox as the traditional tight end and then have Dalton Kincaid run wide receiver routes? I think that's probably what's going to happen. So in that sense, like ultimately he could take away targets from Gabe Davis. Gabe Davis has not proven consistency. I don't think he's ever had like more than 2 good games in a row. Not that I can't remember a time where he did. And if he did, like maybe the third game was like 12 fantasy points or something. But I just think that like this guy has to prove it. Like we thought he was going to be a 5-7 year dynasty, at least like a wide receiver 2, right? Or a flex play. We thought that was definitely in the cards for this guy. And now it's like nobody is behind him. Everybody's done with him. I'm almost there, but like I'm losing hope. I'm giving him one more chance. There's a few players that I have that are like this, like running backs especially. But I'm giving Gabe Davis one more chance. He really needs to prove it. And like you said, like he's not going to be in my starting lineup anytime soon. Like one of my dynasty leagues, I have Lamb, Waddle, Mike Evans, George Pickens, Treylon Burks. I'm starting all of those guys over Gabe Davis for now. And I mean, him and Burks are like, borderline. But yeah, no, I agree. So like, and then even in my notes, I put, I'm giving him one more chance to be rosterable this season. So that's where I'm at with Gabe Davis.
Look, man, you brought up the point about Dalton Kincaid, and yes, this is said to be noted as one of the best tight end classes in the last couple of years in terms of like what they can do for a fantasy perspective. But it's very much proven that history shows us that first year rookie tight ends don't really do anything for fantasy at all. So I'm not even worried about Dalton Kincaid in this scenario. I'm worried about that 3 years before even Dalton Kincaid showed up, he really wasn't doing anything for your fantasy lineup either. So now you insert him. Sure, he could be, gadget guy, blocker, whatever in his first year. I just think that even with what's been there, like Gabe Davis was hyped up as the wide receiver 2 on a team with a top 3 quarterback in the league, and he's just never really been able to put it together. So let's look at it here from a redraft perspective, Jacob. You're later in your draft. Maybe the draft is over and you're looking at your lineup and you're like, wow, I have to drop some of these guys. Okay. Who are you dropping? Gabe Davis or Juju Smith-Schuster?
Like if I had to make the decision right now?
If you had to make the decision right now. Redraft leagues.
Oh.
Someone dropped Juju and you're like, Are you that crazy? You're like, oh my god, like I got to go after Juju. Like, what are you doing? You leaving Juju on the waiver wire? Or are you
It's
sticking with
really
Gabe Davis?
tough because they can be complete opposite type of players. Like or Juju could be a PPR machine, and Gabe Davis could be a total boomer bust. But I think I'm still sticking with Gabe Davis because he plays with Josh Allen.
Fair enough. I
That's
like
it.
the
That's the
quarterback there.
deciding factor.
All right. All right. I'm not going to bore you with some other ones, but I was just kind of looking at our rankings here, and I'm like, okay, Gabe Davis. Then there's Juju, Jonathan Mingo, who we talked about today. But yes, it's safe to say Gabe Davis hasn't really done anything for your fantasy team the last 3 years. This year, according to Jacob, he needs to prove it, which is why he is on our list today of wide receivers that need to prove they should be on your fantasy team, or for this matter, your fantasy